At this time, I'd ask the Nassau County Color Guard to advance the colors. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here this evening as we recognize some of our finest officers in Nassau County and in the town of Hempstead. At this time, I'd like to let you know that I was delayed this evening because we have suffered an incredible loss and tragedy in the town of Hempstead. One of our workers was tragically killed in an accident in Wantagh this afternoon. And so I would like to thank all the men and women in law enforcement who have helped us deal with this situation. And I would ask everybody right now if you would just bow your head in a moment of silence to think of our worker and his family. I cannot say his name because we don't know if his next of kin has been notified yet. Thank you. And I would now ask Commissioner Patrick Ryder to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I now invite Pastor Derek Garcia, Nassau County Police Department Chaplain, to please do the invocation.
First, I would like to express my condolences to the town of Hempstead family for their loss this day. But I'd like to bring you back a few years in my daughter's kindergarten classroom. And in this class, everybody was saying what they wanted to be when they grew up. One kid wanted to be a scientist. Another one wanted to be a dinosaur. Amazingly enough, close to half the class wanted to become a police officer. Today, we are privileged to honor those who are living the dream, walking tall as heroes for both young and old. We also do our part in faith to pray for those in this room today and for the expansive brotherhood and sisterhood of Blue and first responders. So may we turn our thoughts and our hearts to God today. We come to you with thanksgiving in our hearts, for you have granted us breath and life. May this day and all of those to follow be filled with purpose as we strive to be guided in your goodness, your mercy, and your grace. We assemble today to intentionally honor those who have taken an oath to serve and protect, to lift up our respective police departments in prayer, and to cover them in faith. We would ask that you would be their compass when all hope seems lost, to be their strength in a time of need, to be their fortress in a time of danger, to be their light in a time of darkness, be their miracle in a time of impossibility, be their comfort in times of sorrow, be their provision in times of need, be their healer in time of sickness, be their advocate in times of defense, be their peace in the middle of the storm, be their truth when temptation comes close, be their armor during the fight, be their freedom from all that can bind them. Be their all-sufficient God for them, their families, and friends. For blessed are the peacekeepers, for they shall be called children of God. We ask for these things in your name, for you are one, and you are God forever and ever. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to ask Nicole Dalto to lead us in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched
retire the colors.
All right. Hey. Forward. Mount.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Thank you, Pastor and Chaplain, for those beautiful words. Truly, in times where we've seen such division, it's nice to come together as a community to honor those who have done so much for us. And ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to join you this evening as we collectively recognize this group of some of our town's finest officers. I am humbled by the opportunity to share my thoughts as well as our collective appreciation and admiration for tonight's honorees. In his work, Common Sense, the author Thomas Paine wrote, "The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly." While Paine was talking about this sacrifices associated with fighting in the Revolutionary War, the meaning of his words still hold true today. That we value things that we have worked hard to achieve, and if recognition comes too easily, we do not always fully appreciate it. Shortly, tonight's honorees will receive citations and medals commemorating their outstanding contributions to our community. As officers are called forth, I ask each of you to consider Paine's words. These medals symbolize the great triumphs your honorees have received in the noblest of professions. They are a token of the collective enthusiasm and passion that you have shown to make our town a better place. And please understand that we acknowledge that what you have done means so much more than what we can convey with a simple certificate or a medal. This unfortunately has to be said because we live in a world that employs the term hero far too loosely and overuse it for those who are not always deserving. Ladies and gentlemen, those sitting before you today have demonstrated professionalism in the most trying of circumstances. They have embodied patience when others would have walked away. They have displayed humanity in the face of inhumanity. And they have shown dedication to duty as their family members, many of whom are here this evening, have waited patiently at home for them, wondering, what if? I, along with your respective departments that have nominated you for this evening's awards, are pleased to recognize each of you as the best of the best, those who have stood and said, I can give more. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's honorees have all seen the face of evil, yet they have appealed to the better angels of their nature, and we are a better community and a better town for their bravery and their courage. So on behalf of the town of Hempstead, I wish to extend my heartfelt congratulations to tonight's award recipients for their continuing efforts to keep our streets safe and to make this town a better, friendlier, kinder, stronger place. Thank you all so very, very much.
Officers, as your name is called, please stand as we read the incident in which you're being nominated for. At the end of the presentation of your awards, we'll take 2 photos, one with your commanding officer and the representatives from your department, and then one with your family and friends that are here with you tonight. From the 2nd Precinct, Officer James Saleo and Officer Scott Burleson. On October 23, 2018, Officer Saleo responded to a radio assignment at 2665 Hempstead Turnpike in Levittown for an assault that had just occurred. The victim, a 36-year-old woman, was driving westbound on Hempstead Turnpike in Levittown with her 3-year-old daughter in the car. The subject, a 34-year-old man who was 5'9" and 250 pounds, threw a cinder block at the victim's car, striking it, damaging a headlight, and denting the hood. The victim pulled into a gas station and approached the subject to ask about his actions. The subject replied, "I was playing dice with some rocks." The victim stated, "I have a baby in the car and you could have killed us." The victim took out her cell phone and called 911. As she was on the phone with the 911 operator, the subject punched her in the face and then ripped the victim's phone out of her hands. The victim fell to the ground and the subject again punched the victim in the face. The victim was knocked unconscious. As she laid helplessly on the ground with her child in the car, the subject brutally continued to punch her in the face. The victim regained consciousness and tried to get up from the ground, but the subject prevented her from standing and struck her in the face and head about 10 more times. An unknown group of people came over to assist the victim. The cowardly subject then fled the scene on foot. The victim was in substantial pain, and parts of her face and head were bruised and swollen. She had suffered a sprained ankle, a broken bloody nose, a cut to her lower lip and left knee. The victim had also had a laceration to her head and required stitches and sustained a concussion. After the police arrived to the scene, they put out a description of the subject over the police radio. While canvassing for the subject, police officers Scott Burleson and James Saleo located the subject in front of 161 Loring Road in Levittown. Officers Burleson and Saleo repeatedly gave verbal commands to the subject to stop moving and sit down. The subject did not comply and fled, running from the officers. Officer Burleson ran after the subject and caught him in the middle of Loring Road. The subject grabbed at the shirt of Officer Burleson and ripped his badge from his uniform. The subject continued to violently thrash about and break free from the officer. Officer Burleson and Saleo again gave the subject multiple verbal commands to get on the ground and stop resisting. At this time, the subject charged at Officer Saleo and punched him in the face with a closed fist, causing substantial pain and swelling. Officer Saleo retreated to gain space from the subject and deployed his electronic control device. Officer Saleo fired his ECD, striking the subject in the stomach. As the subject fled to the ground, Officer Saleo and Burleson also went to the ground to try and gain control of the subject. The subject, however, continued to violently resist arrest. The subject was finally placed into custody with the assistance of a passerby and other responding officers. The subject was charged with robbery, 2 counts of assault, 2 counts of criminal mischief, resisting arrest, possession of marijuana, and endangering the welfare of a child. Officers Burleson and Saleo responded to a rapidly changing and emotionally charged scene. They apprehended a violent felony offender who had no regard for the physical and emotional damage he inflicted on a defenseless victim and her helpless child. He, who was prowling the streets like a predator, brazenly violating the social contract and public trust in broad daylight. Officers Burleson and Saleo demonstrated great professionalism and restraint in navigating adrenaline swings, threats to their safety, and getting the job done with as little force as possible. We are proud to recommend that they receive this medal tonight. From the 4th Precinct, Officer Kevin Mooney. On April 3rd, Officer Mooney was patrolling the area of Woodmere and responded to a 911 call for a suspicious person on a roof. When he arrived on scene, he observed the suspect jump off the roof and attempt to flee the scene. Officer Mooney, along with other responding officers, pursued the suspect and set up a perimeter. During the search within the perimeter, the suspect was found attempting to hide in one of the neighboring rear yards. The suspect tried to evade the officers on foot and resisted being taken into custody. After failing all commands to obey the officers, an electronic control device was tactically discharged and the suspect was successfully and safely taken into custody. The suspect was found to be in possession of burglary tools, ropes, glues, screwdrivers, flashlight, gloves, and grappling hooks. The suspect was identified and is a career criminal. The suspect is now known as the Ninja Burglar, who is responsible for numerous burglaries for a span of over 4 decades. This keen observation and quick action led to the arrest of a dangerous and career criminal. For his actions, Officer Mooney is proudly nominated for this award tonight. From the 4th Detective Squad, Detective Michael Bartlett. Detective Bartlett has conducted multiple exemplary investigations and outstanding arrests for an array of offenses, including quality of life issues within the town of Hempstead. The following are a few examples. On April 26, 2018, Detective Bartlett was investigating a patrol arrest by Police Officer Mooney involving 4 subjects who were attempting to steal parked vehicles from driveways in Hewlett Harbor. Detective Bartlett conducted an extensive investigation involving interviewing all 4 subjects and conversing with New Jersey State Police about the subjects in custody. During his investigation, Detective Bartlett discovered that the subjects were all involved in a stolen car ring based out of New Jersey. The subjects were found to be career criminals who primarily steal high-end cars and ship them overseas out of New Jersey. Detective Bartlett's hard work and extensive investigation uncovered the ring and helped deter and prevent future similar larcenies. On August 9th, 2018, Detective Bartlett received a report of a stolen vehicle involving an assault in Oceanside. The victims were working as repossession agents assigned an order to repossess, directing them to repossess a 2014 Nissan Maxima at a private residence. They announced their intention to repossess the vehicle to the resident of the house, who was the defendant and co-signer of the loan. During a 15-minute conversation, they offered him the opportunity to remove his belongings from the vehicle, which he then declined. They then departed with the vehicle and hooked it to their tow truck. They then went to a lighted area near the storage yard, which is a gas station in Oceanside. At that location, they intended on photographing and documented the vehicle under the station's lighting system. While attempting to document the vehicle, the defendant approached the victim, who he had followed to the location. The defendant then shoved past the victim, entered the car, and started it. While the driver's side door opened, the victim between the door and the body of the vehicle, the defendant rapidly backed up and strikes her in the chest and stomach. She was spun around and fell to the ground with an injury to her right ankle and lower leg. The defendant fled the scene with the vehicle. Detective Bartlett conducted an investigation by interviewing the victim and obtaining surveillance video of this incident. Detective Bartlett's investigation led him to the apprehension of the defendant and recovery of the vehicle. As a result of his diligent investigative work, the defendant was arrested and charged with 2 counts of robbery, assault, grand larceny, reckless endangerment, and leaving the scene of an accident involving physical injury. For these measurable reasons, dedication and continuous displaying firm commitment to the citizens of Nassau County, Detective Bartlett is being nominated for this award tonight. For the 5th Precinct, we have a very special guest accepting this award. We have Police Officer Rita Bopp Carroll's son, Sean. Police Officer Rita Bopp Carroll is a 25-year veteran of the Nassau County Police Department and has been assigned to the 5th Precinct Problem-Oriented Policing Unit for the past 13 years. Officer Bopp Carroll epitomizes the community-oriented police model integral to the Nassau County Police Department. Throughout her career, Officer Bopp Carroll has developed and integrated programs for our school-age students, working with each school district in the 5th Precinct to establish a positive rapport with the community and the police department. She has routinely attended and participated in civic association meetings for all the varying communities in the 5th Precinct and has become affectionately known and regarded by all as Rita. The community concerns very quickly have become her concerns and wherever possible are addressed in short order. While working with Officer Bopp Carroll over the past 4 years, there have been many occasions where she's made phone calls from home or stopped by on her day off just to follow up on a concern. During the span of her career, she has established personal collaborative relationships with the village, town, county, and state agencies to assist the residents of Nassau County. She has tirelessly pursued resolutions to their concerns and has taken the time to do follow-up with the residents to let them know what we could do and at times what we could not do. In every case, assuring that the residents that their concerns were heard and addressed to the best of our ability. Over the course of her career, she has left an indelible mark on the community and of the members of the 5th Precinct. She's been a mentor and role model to countless new officers who were privileged enough to see her work ethic, her care, and her commitment to the department and the communities that we serve. It is an overwhelming privilege to nominate her tonight. Thank you for accepting on her behalf, Sean. From the 5th Detective Squad, Detective Craig Johnson and Detective James Brody. Normally, I would never shorten a submission from a police department, but this is a longer one, and it is an incredible story, so I'm going to abridge it a little bit and apologize in advance. There's also another person that was involved in this that's here tonight, firefighter Christian Franzino. If you would stand for a moment. Thank you for being here tonight. On Friday, May 18th, 2018, Detective Craig Johnson and Detective James Brody were en route to the 5th Squad, were driving in traffic along the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway in the northeast lanes when they noticed a 2012 gray in color, stopped in the emergency, were stopped in the emergency lane along the right side of the roadway. They were transporting a prisoner from another jurisdiction. Approximately 50 to 100 feet ahead, a black Jeep Cherokee was also stopped along the roadway with blue emergency lights flashing. Mr. Christian Franzino, who's also a firefighter, from the Elmont Fire Department, was standing along the cement wall of the bridge and talking to a male gentleman who was standing on the outer edge of the bridge deck looking south away from the firefighter. Detectives immediately recognized that the situation to be a possible suicidal jumper. Detective Brody engaged his emergency lights and pulled to the side of the road in front of the incident. Detective Johnson notified communications at 14:53 hours and requested NYPD assistance as he exited the vehicle. Detectives approached with caution and overheard the suicidal subject stating to the firefighter, "You can't help me. No one can help me now." Firefighter Franzino assured him that life was worth living and that they could provide him with assistance. He turned around to face the detectives and the firefighter. Detective Johnson engaged him in a conversation and asked if everything was okay. He stated he was going through some things, and upon further conversation, he stated he did not want to be arrested and he was not thinking clearly. Firefighter Franzino, Detective Brody, and Detective Johnson were able to convince him that it was all okay and to come back over the cement divider and off the bridge ledge. He was helped back over the wall, at which time the detective spoke with him and calmed him down. They were able to notify communications that the situation had been safely resolved. Everybody was notified to take care of the situation. He was transported safely to a hospital, and the gentleman was safely taken care of. Thank you for your actions. This is why you've been nominated tonight. From the 7th Precinct, Police Officer Christopher Ferraro. On March 5th, 2018, at approximately 23:43 hours, Police Officer Christopher Ferraro, sorry, I can't say your name today, while operating a marked vehicle, was assigned a call for a suspicious person at 3300 Sunrise Highway, Wantaw. The complainant called 911 and stated that she heard banging coming from the rear of Tobacco Junction, which is located at 3300 Sunrise Highway. The caller further stated that the store was closed at this time. Upon arrival at the location, Police Officer Ferraro responded to the rear of the building and observed a white 2014 BMW parked facing westbound in the rear alley behind the store. At this time, Police Officer Ferraro was exiting his vehicle when he observed a white male approximately 6 feet tall, 210 pounds, who was wearing a dark jacket, light pants and sneakers, and black gloves come from the side of the building. The police officer used verbal commands and ordered that the male to lie down on the ground until assistance arrived. The defendant complied, and once police assistance arrived, the defendant was placed into custody without incident. Upon further investigation, the defendant did have a hammer attached to his belt in plain view. A canvass of the immediate area was conducted, which revealed the rear door to the Tobacco Junction appeared to have been pried open and the security camera was damaged. The owner of Tobacco Junction arrived on scene and stated that when he closed the store for the night, the cameras were in working order and the door was not damaged. Upon review of the surveillance video, the defendant was observed walking down the alley toward the rear door of the business, and he was standing in the vicinity of the camera. It stopped working. The defendant was placed under arrest and subsequently charged with burglary in the 2nd degree, criminal mischief in the 3rd degree, and possession of burglary tools. For his dedication to duty, the 7th Precinct was proud to nominate you for this award tonight. From the Bureau of Special Operations, Officer Thomas Reiling and Officer Kenneth Kramer. These officers are being nominated in 2 separate occasions within the confines of the town of Hempstead. Police Officer Reiling and Kramer have effected arrests that resulted in the removal of 2 illegally possessed handguns and the seizure of large amounts of controlled substances. The officers work in a plainclothes capacity and are ever vigilant to abate the actions of people who engage in antisocial behavior. When they are not performing anti-crime duties, they are actively engaged in special weapons and tactics training and deal directly with the most nefarious people that unfortunately exist within our society. Thank you for your service, gentlemen. We have 2 representatives that are from the technical services. Technical supervisors. Officer John Obert Thorne and Officer Robert Segreto. Their responsibilities range from calibrating breath test equipment, training recruits in field sobriety, training veteran officers in drug recognition, and ensuring compliance of breath testing procedures. Officer Obert Thorne has lectured with the Commissioner of Police in many hamlets in the town of Hempstead regarding current opioid crisis and has developed a substance abuse award program for parents of school-age children and presented in Carl Place High School and the Belmore Merrick School District. He also assists the District Attorney's Office with the Choices and Consequences program in high schools and unequivocally saves families from tragedy. Officer Segreto has developed a substance abuse awareness program for parents of school-age children as well, and has done several of the same presentations as Officer Obert Thorne, and has presented the Nassau County Police Department Truth in Medicine media briefing at South Community Hospital and addressing the dangers of marijuana use, and presented at the Nassau County Police Department School Safety Forum at Hofstra University. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We also had awards for 3 members of the 3rd Precinct who couldn't be with us tonight, but I don't want to not recognize them, and I'm sure if we send the medals back with Commissioner Ryder, he'll make sure that they get to them. That's your prerogative. Officer Daniel Kolakowski, Officer Kyle Desmond, and Sergeant Timothy Vitiello. On February 11, 2018, at approximately 4:48 hours, Police Officer Daniel Kolakowski and Officer Kyle Desmond received a call for a disturbance with shots fired at La Quinta Inn, located at 821 Stewart Avenue in East Garden City. Police Officer Desmond, while canvassing the area, observed 2 male blacks running westbound on Riding Road. At that time, Officer Kolakowski observed the subjects running southbound through the parking lot at 623 Stewart Avenue in East Garden City. Police Officer Desmond was quickly able to apprehend one of the subjects. The other subject proceeded to jump the fence and run through the McDonald's parking lot located at 637 Stewart Avenue. Sergeant Vitello responded to the scene and put out a notification for a male black subject with a backpack and white pants running through the McDonald's parking lot. Police Officer Kolakowski, while continued to canvass and apprehend the second subject. The subject fit the description of the outstanding subject, but no longer had the backpack in possession. The subject was questioned about the location of the backpack, at which time he stated to the officers where the location of the backpack was and a description of it. Police Officer Desmond began searching for the backpack and located it in the rear of the McDonald's, concealed behind the drive-through sign and some bushes. Upon searching for the backpack, Officer Desmond observed it to contain a 9mm Springsteen handgun. Subsequently to the discovery, one of the subjects was placed under arrest and charged with criminal possession of a firearm. This is the reason these officers were nominated for this award tonight. Police Officer Tiffany D'Alessandro from the Garden City Police Department. Officer D'Alessandro began her career with the Garden City Police Department in January of this year and has already distinguished herself as a proactive officer dedicating to protecting and serving the public, and has been involved in 28 arrests since joining our department. The #1 crime in Garden City, as well as adjoining jurisdictions, has been larcenies from vehicles. However, due to the nature of this crime, which is usually involved in unlocked vehicles, it is very difficult to detect and apprehend the person responsible. In the early morning hours of October 6, 2018, Officer D'Alessandro, while off duty on her way into work, observed an individual acting suspiciously in the center of town where many larcenies from vehicles occur. As she approached, she discovered a person attempting to enter a vehicle and immediately placed the subject under arrest. This subject was determined to be a repeat offender responsible for numerous larcenies. Since this arrest, reports of larcenies from vehicles were dramatically reduced. In addition to the above arrest, her investigation and keen observation was instrumental in the apprehension of a subject wanted for multiple church box larcenies. Thank you for your service. From the Hempstead Police Department, Officer Grant Davis. Police Officer Davis is a highly motivated police officer. He has consistently shown a great attention to detail while investigating crimes. A large portion of his arrests are self-initiated. His keen eye for detail has resulted in the arrest of several individuals who were illegally in possession of handguns. On November 11, 2017, after investigation, car pursuit, and foot chase, Police Officer Davis apprehended an individual who was subsequently charged with multiple offenses, including driving while intoxicated and criminal possession of a weapon. On December 10th, 2017, Police Officer Davis responded to a residence for a report of a disturbance. Upon arrival, our victim appeared to be very afraid and was not forthcoming. The victim stated that she was fine and did not need the police. Fortunately, Police Officer Davis calmed our victim and gained her trust. Our victim then divulged the truth about the situation in her home. The victim's boyfriend had displayed and threatened to shoot her after an argument, all while she was holding her young child. Thankfully, Police Officer Davis was able to assist with other officers locate and pursue and arrest the boyfriend, who was found to be in possession of a loaded handgun. These are just two examples of the hard work, professionalism, and effort that Police Officer Davis brings to work each and every day. We appreciate and thank him for his work ethic and drive. Congratulations. From the Lynbrook Police Department, Officer John Stawinski. On March 13th of this year, Police Officer John Stawinski was working a day tour and on routine patrol within the confines of the incorporated village of Lynbrook. P.O. Stawinski was operating his unmarked radio patrol on Broadway when he observed a male crossing the street. The male, who stood 6 foot 3 inches tall and weighed 230 pounds, was crossing the road heading towards a much smaller female. The male was screaming and cursing at the female, who appeared to be terrified and was clutching her handbag. The officer immediately turned his radio motor patrol around, at which time he observed the male now running at the female. The male then stopped in front of the female, towering over her while screaming and cursing with both of his hands were inside the middle front pocket of his sweatshirt. The officer had activated his emergency lights, requested assistance, and was exiting his car when the female ran away from the male to a parked vehicle while screaming, "Call 911." The male then began to chase the female while screaming, "I'm going to get you." When Police Officer Stawinski intervened by identifying himself as a police officer and verbally commanding the subject to remove his hands from his sweatshirt. The male refused to comply with the officer's commands and then cursed at the officer. He stated, "Shoot me." Police Officer Stawinski continued to verbally command the male to remove his hands while keeping himself between the male and the female victim to protect her. Lynbrook Police Officer Mier arrived, at which time Police Officer Stawinski and Mier were able to get the male subject to remove his hands from his sweatshirt while he was still cursing at the female victim, who he had never met before. The male subject was placed under arrest for menacing and harassment and transported to Lynbrook Police Headquarters for processing. The male was also found to have an open warrant from the New York City Police Department for felony assault. This is the reason you are nominated tonight. And last but certainly not least, from the Rockville Center Police Department, Officer John Murphy. Police Officer John Murphy was hired on the Rockville Center Police Department in 2014. Prior to his date of appointment with Rockville Center, John Murphy served in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years while attached to the 2nd Marine Division. He did several tours of duty with the Marine Corps, including explosive ordnance disposal along with personal security for General Nicholson. John first finished out his last few years in the Marine as a military police officer. Upon completion of his military commitment in 2012, John attended the Suffolk County Police Academy, where he became an Ocean Beach and West Hempstead police officer, and then in 2014, hired on with Rockville Center. Since John's hiring on, he has become a great asset to the organization in Rockville Center. His prior military and police experience has paved the way for him to become more involved in our department's innovative firearms training program. Once our department noticed his level of skill and maturity within the use of firearms and tactics, John was able to attend the New York State Firearms Instructor School, where he graduated top of his class. Johns further attended the FBI Carbine Instructor School, where he also graduated at the top of his class. Since John's certifications, he has been able to impart much of his knowledge and skill into our officers. Not only has he evolved into a professional instructor, what he has imparted into our officers is valued most due to the importance of keeping our police officers safe. Police Officer Murphy is nominated for the Town of Hempstead Police Service Award for his significant contributions, his dedication to duty, and service to the residents of the Village of Rockville Center, the Town of Hempstead, and the County of Nassau, for the highly professional conduct that he displays on a daily basis, for his outstanding performance and dedication to the department's firearms and tactics training program, for providing our police officers with valuable education to ensuring their safety and success. We are proud to nominate you tonight.
At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Derek Garcia up again for the benediction.
As the families were coming in, one of the greatest things that I get to do is I get to pray with you, I get to pray for you, and I get to invite all of you to do the same. And as I've seen the families come on up here, just that sense of pride for your loved ones, your mom, your dad, your son, your daughter. What a great sense of pride as you go home. So go out and go celebrate and be safe. So let's pray before we leave. May the Lord strengthen you and help you. May he uphold you with his righteous hand. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace, so that you too may overflow with a contagious hope for someone in their greatest time of need. Grant each person safety to accomplish all that is required, all that is demanded. We pray for the ones who will run into danger, responding with great skill and wisdom to meet the needs of any circumstance, great and small. May you be with their families, their friends, in the quiet of the night and in the middle of their tour. Be with them. Guard their minds, their hearts, and their bodies from all things. Go now in peace, and fear not, for God is with you. Amen.
Before we close with God Bless America, once again sung by Nicole Dalto, I would just like to wish everyone here a happy Thanksgiving and let you know how grateful I am and thankful I am and the rest of the town of Hempstead is for all of this service that you have done for us and for our community. We're so grateful for all of you, not just our honorees, but all of the men in blue and women in blue who are here with us this evening, and to their families who sacrifice on their own time also to share their loved ones with us. So thank you all very much.
God